Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com doing a quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements week ending March 5th, 2018. It's episode number 137 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from Gameforge, and it's a bit sudden. Soulworker is finally here. After numerous delays, the game officially launched into open beta on Steam, and oddly though, they didn't even announce when it was going to happen, it just boom, launched into open beta. And unlike most open betas though, the Gameforge did say they might reset accounts before full launch, but that's not quite set in stone just yet. Soulworker, for those that haven't heard of it, is a gorgeous anime-inspired action MMORPG. It plays a lot like Critica Online and Closers, as it has instance dungeons and a hub world where you can actually grab quests and interact with others. And since the game launched on Steam earlier this week, it's been averaging about 6,000 or so players online at any given time, and hit over 10,000 concurrent players as well. It's off to a pretty amazing start considering games like Critica and Closers never hit over 2,000 concurrent users either, so this hit over 10,000 players, which again is definitely really impressive. The core gameplay though isn't really anything too different. If you played Closers, if you played DFO or any of these instance dungeon, persistent town style games, the core gameplay is very similar. The graphics though are quite gorgeous. I love the anime graphics in this game, they're top notch. So expect a first look video for this one real soon. Next up, Blade & Soul is launching a big update titled Fire and Blood on March 21st. The update adds a new raid, 2 new dungeons, and the new Lin Gunslinger class. The 2 new dungeons are Emperor's Tomb and Ransack Treasury, and the new raid is titled Koldrak's Lair. And despite the fact that Blade & Soul launched in the West like 4 years after its launch in South Korea, the game still has a fairly sizable player base. It's one of the few action MMORPGs out there with a persistent world alongside Terra and Black Desert Online. I played this game quite a bit when it first launched, haven't played too much recently, but if you haven't played it yet, I think it's well worth checking out. Next, we got some pretty big news from Tryon Worlds. They announced a remake of Defiance titled Defiance 2050, which is a total overhaul of their sci-fi MMORPG shooter, which unlike the original will be free to play from day one. Defiance 2050 isn't quite a sequel either, it is instead a total remake of the original game, but with a more modern feel. It's slated to release this summer for PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. There's no word on what's going to happen yet with the existing Defiance servers, but old players will be able to transfer over their unique titles, account upgrades, and loadout slots into the new game. However, that's about it. Other than that, they will have to do a fresh start. Closed beta signups for this one are already live, so check it out on Tryon World's official website. And now that we're seeing a remake for Defiance and we've seen a remake for Secret World Legends, I wonder if there'll be any other remakes for other older MMORPGs or not in the future. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, some industry news. The French gaming giant Ubisoft acquired Mammoth Games, the developer behind the 2D Smash Bros. Like fighting game Brawlhalla. No financial terms were disclosed, but I suspect it was in the high double-digit or low triple-digit millions, as the game has been on quite a tear since its launch. It averages over 6,300 players concurrently on Steam alone, and it's also quite popular on the PS4. This should be good news though for Brawlhalla players though, as Mammoth Games now has all the resources of Ubisoft at their disposal. If you never played Brawlhalla, it's well worth checking out in my opinion. Even though you have to unlock the other characters or buy them individually, it's a great fighting game and it's free to play. Next, the free-to-play digital card game Shadowverse will be launching its next expansion titled Dawnbreak Night Edge at the end of the month. The new expansion introduces a variety of new cards, as well as new card effects called Choose. While Shadowverse isn't nearly as popular as Hearthstone, it still averages over 3,000 concurrent players on Steam alone. Plus, it's perhaps the most generous card game out there, giving away free cards and packs with basically every single update. And to continue that tradition, with the launch of Dawnbreak Night Edge, everyone will be getting a free legendary card. No word on which legendary card just yet, but they should reveal that closer to the release. If you like Hearthstone, give this one a try. It does play a bit like Hearthstone, but has a more anime and weeby feel to it. I actually really like the art style a lot in the game, and the cards are really pretty. Next up, we have a pretty big update for an old MMORPG, Seal Online. Yes, Seal Online is still alive and going. The game launched its 6th Pet Evolution update this last week, which allows players to access 6 evolutions. The update adds 37 new pet evolutions to the game, and it's a big deal given how in-depth the game's pet system is. Seal Online has been around in the West since 2007, so the game's been running for over 10 years now just here in the West. It's definitely impressive to see an MMORPG last this long. Up next, Black Desert Mobile officially launched in South Korea this last week, and it's big news because Black Desert Mobile looks a lot more promising than most mobile MMORPGs we've seen. The game features persistent world, in-depth character customization, action combat, and a whole lot more. And while there's no firm Western release date just yet, the game is scheduled to launch globally this year. And also keep in mind, the PC version of Black Desert Online was a much bigger success here in North America and Europe than it was in Korea, so you can bet an English release of BDO Mobile is at the top of Pearl Abyss's priorities list. And moving right along on mobile game news, Sword Art Online Integral Factor released an English teaser trailer. Integral Factor is a mobile MMORPG set in the Sword Art Online universe, and from what I've seen of the Japanese version of the game, it has no autoplay, which alone gets me kind of excited because it makes me think it's a more serious MMORPG. While there's still no release date for it just yet, pre-registrations are open, and those who pre-register right now can get some in-game goodies once the game launches, which I suspect will be later this year. I'm really hoping we see more and more mobile MMORPGs kind of give up on the autoplay nonsense, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up, and perhaps the weirdest mobile game launches, Tekken Mobile is officially live. The game has been soft launched for some time now in various countries, but is now playable by anybody around the world. I say weird game launch because Tekken Mobile isn't your typical fighting game. It applies a lot of the weird mobile game mechanics and monetization techniques seen in other games, and it feels really odd. Players start with only a single playable character, and yes, it's a fighting game with one playable character. They must unlock the rest. What makes it more bizarre, though, in my opinion, is that individual attacks and special moves need to be unlocked as well. So if you're playing against an opponent with higher tier attacks than you, you're just kind of boned. They should have just made a normal fighting game instead of this pay-to-win nonsense, but we'll see how it's gonna do. Moving right along, Neverwinter's latest expansion, The Lost City of Omo, officially launched this last week on PC, with an Xbox One and PS4 release date set to happen at a later time. The update adds a whole new area to the game, some new endgame content, and also smooths out the progression from level 60 to 70 to make leveling quite a bit faster, as well as some balance tweaks to many of the game's classes. And what's interesting about Neverwinter actually is that over the last 3 years, the game has gotten more popular. A lot of these MMORPGs kind of fade away in time, but Neverwinter has actually been gaining steam. It's actually a really fun action MMORPG as well, so if you've never played it, it's worth checking out. There are some questionable monetization things in the game, but overall, I personally had fun playing this one. Oh, and the game averages about 2,700 or so players online at a given time, which definitely isn't too shabby. Moving right along back to actual MMORPG news, Guild Wars 2 Living World Season 4 Episode 2 is set to launch on March 6th, which is tomorrow. It's the next installment in the game. It's titled A Bug in the System. It'll be adding a bunch of new stuff to the game, including a new storyline, a new map to explore, a new mastery, as well as a bunch of other goodies. This latest installment will be free to anyone that has Path of Fire, as with any other update in the future, so long as they own the latest expansion. If you've never played Guild Wars 2, it's worth checking out. The base game is free, and if you like it, you can buy the expansion afterwards. Plus, now's a pretty good time to start playing because the game's player base is definitely a bit elevated thanks to the launch of Path of Fire recently. Next and last bit of news this week comes from Warframe, and it's an update only for the console version of the game. The Shrine of Eidolon update is set to launch on console sometime next week. The PC version had this update sometime last month, and it always kind of sucks playing on console because you're always like a month or so behind the PC version. By the way, the update reworks the mastery rankings for 150 plus weapons, rebalances some of the Warframes, adds a bunch of other goodies to the game, including a new Eidolon. And for those that are curious, Warframe still remains incredibly popular and averages about 50,000 or so players online at a given time on Steam alone. The game is still killing it. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO News this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.